Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back in with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Gooner Talk podcast show, in which we basically moan now every single week about what's going on in the world of Arsenal, because nothing's going too right now. But I'm joined by three fantastic people to get me and you and everyone else who's watching through the next hour or so to talk about the Arsenal. First off, it's been a while, but he's back. Lee Judges, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for having us back on. Been a while, but we see each other last week, so we're not always out of each other's company.
Yes.
So
there is a reason for that, obviously, because I am robbed because of Europa League, the fact that we have to do the show on a Monday, which unfortunately clashes with your podcast, Same Old Arsenal, which is irritating. But finally, we have a Saturday game to enjoy, and we got to record on the normal time of a Sunday, which is great. But yeah, obviously, please do go check out Same Old Arsenal with Craig, once of this parish, and Lee, of course, and Graham, and Harry, and everyone else as well. Dan, I think, too. So please do go check that out. And secondly, we've got John, who is in the passenger seat, I can assure you. Don't worry, there's no recording and driving going on. How you doing,
who's
John?
driving? That's what we want to know. Who's driving?
Can't hear you, John. You're muted. I don't know why, but we can't hear you. You're going to have to back out. We've done a Kenny. We've got a Kenny Kent going on right now. We'll speak to John in just a second. And making his debut, we've got a Seattle-based comedian. How you doing, mate?
Hey, bro. How you doing?
And I can't hear David. Oh, I can hear David now. Right, perfect. I thought we were going to go into meltdown for a second. David, the student, how you doing, mate? You good?
Good, man. Good to make my debut here. And, it's on a sad note.
Definitely so. And John, can we hear you now? No, I still can't hear you. I don't know why. I don't know why we can't hear you. We heard you a second ago, John. I mean, I'm going to suggest the British way of fixing anything, turning it off and back on again. Actually sort it out. But we'll see if we can get John back on in just a second. He was working perfectly fine just a second ago. Lee, I'm going to start with you, mate. Give me your 2-minute reaction to the wonderful Arsenal match that we saw on Saturday.
Well, just disappointment more than anything else. Bored. I have to say, at 1-0, I turned around to my mate Steve and I said, this is boring. You know what I mean? Like, it's a boring game. Despite us winning 1-0, as I said, that they scored. But, it's just not good. The football's not good, Tom. The performances are not good. The results are not getting any better. And unbelievably, it's like, I can't believe we're still in fifth. I can't believe it. You know what I mean? That we're still fifth. But that don't tell all the story. You know, we are fifth, but I think Liverpool was 17 points in front of us. Chelsea 6. Is it Chelsea 6 or 8? And Leicester 6, which will be 9 after next week. It's just at the minute. You're not looking forward to games. I don't think any fan at the moment is looking forward to games. And listen, it's never going to get to the hostilities at the Emirates when it was under Wenger, because the fans don't really care about this manager, and that's the truth. You know, sooner or later. I'll tell you what it was about. We're in a group. There's about 10, 15 of us in this group. You know, that go on the home and away, and finally, the last one got off the fence on Saturday and said, no, that's enough's enough. He's got to go, like, you know what I mean? So we're now a united group of wanting him gone.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're not alone in that. I mean, I'm surprised it took that long to get the whole group behind that movement.
No, there was one stubborn one, like, you know what I mean? So there you go, like, you know.
Fair enough. David, obviously, seeing it over the pond and watching this game, obviously we got John obviously on as well, and a lot of Americans and Canadian-based people that I know equally as frustrated, especially when they have to get up so early in the morning to watch these games. It's even worse. What's your reaction to the latest result?
I mean, when we went 1-up, I still felt like they're gonna score, and like when the goal came, I was not even surprised. And I kind of feel like the players do not want to play for this manager. I feel like that is the issue right now. And it's just been going downhill. And like Lee said, fans do not owe Emery anything. I was happy when he came, but I never like went all the way and like shouted, yeah, he's the guy, whatever. And then, man, he just really pisses me off because, like, you wake up at like 4 a.m. in the morning here to watch the game, and then you get battered. Oh man, like your whole day is ruined. This is worse. This is terrible, man.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen some technical issues on this pod before, but never have I seen someone appear upside down, which is what you're doing right now, Jon. So just turn whatever you're holding, just turn it around. We might be upside down, but trust me, you're now the right way up. I don't know why. You're fine now. Can you hear me, mate? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
And we can hear you. That's perfect. I mean, week on week, Kenny Ken completely dumbfounds me with the ways that he can mess up technically, but I have never seen someone be upside down before, so that was completely new to me. We're just talking to David about obviously the reaction of especially fans that are abroad and are overseas that have to get up so early in the morning to see this monotonous stuff, the same old week in, week out. For you, I mean, Lee was talking about while you were off sorting things that the last person in his group of 15 finally turned around and said it is time for Emery to move on. At what point did you sort of find that tipping point? And was it after this game? Was that the final nail in the coffin, or has it been going for a while now?
I mean, it's been going on for a while, but I think that it hasn't been as emphatic as it was after this last game. So, I kind of, it's been, it almost started off as everyone kind of joking about it, like hashtag Emery out and everything like that. And I think some people were actually serious about it a little earlier on, but I think as it's been progressing and as we've seen more of the same week in and week out, it's been less of an ironic joke after the Wenger era and more of, oh man, this guy needs to go. And I think it's at this point just hit a tipping point for most fans. And, it's hard for anyone at this point to rationalize him staying anymore. It's just, I don't see how you can do it unless you're coming from a position of pure pragmatism where you have to, the only argument against whether he was successful or not is to look at his results at the end of the day. Did we make top four? Did we get in the Champions League? Did we win Europa? But like, even then there's an argument, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, that why wait? Because then, and me and Lee were talking about this a little bit before, even let's say, assuming that he does get us in the Champions League, is he the manager to take us forward? I think we all know, and the management should know that that's not the case anymore. So we're going to have to start from scratch all over again, all that rebuilding for nothing. So I don't know. A lot of people are now in that position of just forget it, move on. Let's try to do something else.
Yeah, we are going to go into a little bit more about that. Of course, before we do move on, I want to say big hi to our live chat right now. You'll notice as well that this is the first time I've managed to sort this out where we're live on Twitter at the same time. I mean, I must be the last one to this party, but it's taken me ages to try and work it out, but I've managed to do it. So thank you everyone that's tuning in on Twitter and on Periscope and obviously on YouTube as well. We're going to go through some of your comments in that chat and get some of your thoughts on what you think about Emery. I've seen lots of Emery out so far. Wilson says, I cannot understand why Emery keeps changing the team week in, week out. Brian Robles says, I'd like Allegri. He's won Serie A how many years in a row now? Got to 2 Champions League finals. Tactically, we may finally have a manager that will get us right on the defence. Piyush says, hi, gents. Great show. Thank you, Piyush, for tuning up. David, I'm going to throw to you very quickly in terms of this whole manager merry-go-round, because the latest news that has come out today, there's been a lot of paper talk and Twitter talk from our journalist friends in the media. And the biggest thing for us is basically that Mourinho is off the table. It's not happening. And that'll be a relief for a lot of people, and it seems to be a relief for you. But this whole thing about Mourinho and actually the fans getting on board, I'm going to throw up on the screen for you very quickly just before I go to you, a poll that was done by Arsblog just very recently. It was on Unai Emery. You can see it on the screen now. 59,000 people have voted, and 87% of those have said sack him now.
Oh, wow.
Which is insane when you consider how many people obviously are so split on Arsene Wenger, for instance. So if you'd done a poll on Arsene Wenger towards the end of his era, I don't think it would have been that staggering in the negative side of things there. So in terms of Emery and in terms of the options that we could go forward with, and obviously this news about Mourinho, where has that sort of left you in terms of your thought process to where Arsenal will move on next?
He's got to go. That is the next thing that's got to happen. Because, like, with this team, if Arsene Wenger was in charge of this team, we would be way, way better. We would be doing way... I feel like the board really failed Arsene Wenger, and he took a lot of heat towards the end. But this team is a very good team. This is like, we should be number 3, number 2 right now. Manchester City are not doing that great. They're grinding out wins, which is what big teams do. And I feel like this team should be up there. Like, Arsenal is not the kind of team to go like a game with Leicester, and you're like, oh, we're gonna get beat. You know very well we're gonna get beaten against Leicester. At home, teams are coming and they're just like, they're going for it. I remember when, even during Arsene Wenger's like towards the end of his era, teams would still like hold back a little bit, but and just would have the ball, and they would like hold back because they know what Arsenal can do. And there was this feeling about playing at the Emirates. But right now, he has taken that away. He was to fix defense. He was to like bring back that fight and winning mentality in our team. There's none, 0 right now. So like, the next step is just him to go, nothing else.
No, it's and then it's that whole problem with the fact that we've heard that the board have basically said that they're not confident in letting Emery go right now because they don't see any real candidate to replace him. And Lee, when you're sort of running this club, and we've now got this, we thought we had faith in the new setup with Raul and Edu and Vinay, taken on from the mess that Gazidis had sort of left behind after he went to AC Milan. Do you actually, as a fan who goes week in, week out, have more renewed faith in the structure that's there, which is completely new to us, to make the decision? Or have you still got very clear reservations about the fact that they'll be too patient with this, or they'll let it trundle on for too long? What's your overall view about how the structure at this club is going to lead us moving forwards?
And the management above that is poor as well. I really do. You know, you have to ask the questions, you know, in the summer, did they really back Emery? I don't think they did. I said it at the time. I don't think it was a great transfer window. We got rid of a lot of players, but did we get the players that they wanted? Certainly, he made a real big line to say that he wanted Saha, and we didn't get him. We ended up with Pepe, who, you know, unbelievably, when we were at home, when you really want some attacking options, he doesn't even get on. But no, I've got no faith in the board whatsoever. I think that I would like to think that Edu coming on board would help us somewhere along the line. But listen, if the board are watching this at the moment and they're not seeing what the fans are seeing, what is going on with the club, what is going on? Because I looked at that yesterday, Tom, and somebody said it in the pub yesterday. The decision to take Torreira off and put on Sacco is like he wanted to get sacked, because he just feels that he's lost the fans, he's lost everything. Oh, let's try and get out of here as quickly as possible with some sort of money behind me or something like. Because it's inexplainable what he done there. You know, listen, I've wanted him to succeed because of what gone on in the past. I was hoping it was, and at the beginning of last season, there was like a little bit of optimism in there, but you can see it being drained away now. And when you just put that poll up there, and was it 88%?
Yeah, around that, yeah.
You know, come on, you know, that is unbelievable. Like, you know, I'll tell you what, there's anybody, do you know what? I'm going to go back to when it first started going around with Wenger. There was, if you said anything out of order against Arsene Wenger, everybody would go mad on you, you know. But if you say anything good about Emery now, everybody's going mad on you. You know what I mean? You can't, you know, to defend him now. You can't do that. So all of these things are happening. I do believe the Xhaka thing was done because of poor management by Emery. He allowed that to go on. He allowed it to fester. The club is surely seeing all these things. Now, if you're in the board, if I was in the boardroom, the first thing that really I doubt on Emery is the captaincy. I know we haven't got a leader, Tom. I know that they haven't, but somewhere along the line, as a manager and as a head coach, you have to choose who's going to be captain. You don't let the players choose it, you know. So there's something wrong there, and all these things are happening now. And you know, you don't really want to see anybody get the sack. Of course, you don't. You don't want it. But if Arsenal are going to succeed, they have to do it now. We are drifting we are drifting away from Leicester and Chelsea at the moment. Now, everybody felt that this season that Chelsea weren't going to be great. They weren't going to be nowhere near it. But because they've got a good young set of players and they're being coached, and David was dead right what he said earlier on there. Like, the players want to play for him. You can see players want to play for Chelsea. You can see the players want to play for Leicester. I don't get that same conviction that these players want to play for Arsenal, for Uri Emery. I watched Torreira walk off yesterday. They made him walk off, so he had to go all the way around the North Bank and everything like that. You could see that he was angry and annoyed that he'd been taken off. Now, no one likes that, but it's just like, sometimes you can see in body language, even when things weren't going right. One of the key things to always look at is the bench when you're being successful or you're not, how they react to it, how they react to it when the team scores and all that. It's muted, Tom. Everything at the moment's diluted to what it used to be like, and you've got players just sitting there, they're just going through the motions, even in the warm-ups. And I just think that if you're on the board, you are seeing this going on all the time. And listen, we're not getting top four under this manager. So if the club are prepared to let it go to the end of the season, then it's their lookout. But I think, I would like to think that they want to give him as much time as they can. I get that, and that's the great thing about Arsenal. But I think now that the time is going to be. I think if they lose to Leicester, I don't think there's no way back for him, and the board will have to make that decision.
100%. I can't disagree with what you're saying. I think it's a case where you bring up, and David, as you say, made a great point about the players are on board with Lampard, the players are on board with Rodgers. At what point can you look at what's going on and see the continuous nature of this decline that's going on? We're not progressing. We thought we might progress after moving on from Arsene Wenger, but it's not happened. We sort of allowed there to be a transition season last year, thinking that might get us somewhere, that we were sort of given this false hope when it appeared that we might qualify for the Champions League, or we might win the Europa League. And then when that didn't happen, I would think that we would step up, especially when we've spent a hell of a lot of money as well, and it hasn't happened. I kind of want to bring it back to the game that happened, of course, on Saturday. And John, Lee mentioned the substitutions that Emery made in that game, and this has been the biggest stick to beat Emery with recently. We played Liverpool in midweek, took Torreira off, and then we conceded. We're playing against Wolves, 1-0 up. We take Torreira off. We take Torreira off, and then minutes later we concede again. And it's not like he's bringing on someone who's a defensive-minded player. He took off Torreira, I believe it was against Liverpool, and brought on Ceballos. Am I right in thinking that? And
that's right, correct, yep.
And then against Wolves, he took Torreira off and brought Bukayo Saka on. At what point, I understand that there's like a need to try and go and win the game, but as a team that's very defensively lacking week in, week out, what can you get any sort of mindset or explanation as to why he's chosen to do that? And you need to unmute yourself as well, mate.
Yeah, actually I can. I don't think he knows what he's doing. I don't think he does. I think that he got the benefit of the doubt. No, I'm serious. I think he got the benefit of the doubt a lot. He liked to tinker, or maybe he thought, maybe he doesn't know what the best team is. Maybe it started working out. If you remember the first season, there's a lot of situations where his substitutions made a difference in the game. And I think that let him ride this notion that he can make these, profound substitutions that can impact the game. And I think the reality of the situation was, as it progressed and as we see into the season and then at the end of last season, that when that didn't work, there wasn't really another option for him. So he kept persisting with this game plan that just wasn't working. And then when he tried to do what he did that worked in the first season, it wasn't working out anymore. And I think that really comes down to, and when I say he doesn't know what he's doing, and that's slightly flippant at one point, because obviously he's a professional manager, professional coach rather, and he's done some amazing things with some teams in the past. But I think here in the Premier League, I don't think he's the kind of coach that is going to be able to deal with the rigors of the competition. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier. And we were talking about his substitutions and his lack of a game plan and his lack of an idea when things are going wrong. Let's say we do make the Champions League. Are we confident in this guy that if he can't even handle a competition like Europa League where you get to play kids. Now you're not going to be able to do that as much in the Champions League. So when it comes to making substitutions, rotating players, you need to be spot on for the most part, or else you're going to be in trouble. And so this notion that we should keep continuing with him, and I know that I don't want to keep talking about that aspect of it, but it keeps coming back to that. We got to think of it in context and what his role is at this club and what he's doing at this club right now. And is that the right thing going forward? If not, we should just, cut it off right now. I don't think he's making the right decisions. I think when you're looking at it from a tactical point of view, it's just not working out. We're seeing players like Pepe. We're saying, okay, well, maybe it just takes some time for him to adjust to the league. But at the same time, when you're looking at how he's being utilized, when you look at Torreira and how the fact that he's playing ahead of Ozil, it's just mind-boggling why that's happening right now. Every single Arsenal fan in the stadium knew where Torreira should be playing. And finally, we get to see him start some games. We're wondering, why is he not playing? It's always Guendouzi and Xhaka. But then all of a sudden, we see Torreira, and he's playing like in a Ramsey role. We're going, what the heck is going on here? And it's not the first time it's happened. And he got the benefit of the doubt in his first season, like I said, because of his because it was working out. But when he got found out and it's not working anymore, it's not acceptable, and we're seeing the results of that now.
The fact that he's getting found out so early on, though, in his tenure, and the fact that we saw him as a manager that was a sort of a tinkerer, that he would change his tactics based upon different oppositions, the fact that you're stating there that he's being found out is even more concerning. And I said it on the show yesterday, on the Raw Reaction show, I said that he tinkers, but it's the way that he's tinkering I'm finding so odd, because I brought up the point that we played with the diamond formation, the formation that we played against Liverpool, the formation that we played against Watford. And I said, these are teams, like you look at Liverpool's wide areas, it's brilliant. It's world-class in the terms of their fullbacks and terms of their wingers. You look at Watford, they can hurt you with players like De La Feo down the wing. They've got their players like Cholobas, who the Greek left-back as well, is very up and down that wing. They had a lot to hurt us in wide areas, and they did that quite often, especially with Maitland-Niles, who didn't have the best of games at Vicarage Road. And then you come up against the Wolves side that play with fantastic wing backs, with Adama Traore on one side and Johnny Castro on the other, and then you've got pace through the middle in Jota and a target man in Jimenez up top, and you're playing into those teams' hands by playing this narrow diamond formation. So what? I just can't get my head around why he chooses to do that. David, one of the decisions which I did have to agree, because it's important to look at both sides, is that he started Mesut Ozil in the game. And for me, Mesut Ozil, whilst he has his critics, and he certainly has the people that praise him, I thought he was the brightest spark on the pitch, especially in the first half. He was getting stuck in like he did in the Liverpool game. He was winning tackles. He was battling players like Adama Traore. He's arguably the quickest and strongest guy in the Premier League right now, off the ball and winning the ball back for the team, in and amongst his usual fantastic passing and his vision that he uses each time that he plays. Now, is it enough for him to say, or Emery to say, that I'm going to start playing Ozil to get fans to turn this around? Or what is it going to take? Because the likelihood is that I don't think we'll see a change in manager. What is it that you think that Emery has to start doing to get the fans back on side? Is it just as simple as starting to play Ozil?
Oh, that actually is kind of easy to ask, but knowing who we're dealing with in Emery, who like sometimes he does just things and you're like, you cannot really like get what his thought process is. Like in America, I went to the Arsenal Bayern Munich game, and Ozil was one of the standout players. He was amazing. The whole preseason, he played very well. And then all of a sudden, he's out of the team. Well, the attack thing happened, but Kolasinac came back. So that still doesn't make sense. I've seen a couple of tweets about what Mesut told Emery, that he's not a coach. That's true right now. That is what everybody is saying. That is what, like, if you see his substitutions at the moment, you're like, you're not a coach. How can you do that? Like, there's so many things that 60,000 people in the stadium and like around the world, everybody is like, why are you doing this? And I sometimes the whole model of Arsenal board and like there's some things we don't do that's how our culture of the club is. I'm pretty sure even the board, they're looking at it and they're like, well, hang on a minute, what is going on here? I saw the way Thierry Henry was like hugging Ozil, Lacazette, and Aubameyang, it like kind of was telling something like, hey guys, I know what you guys are going through. Like it was kind of like a message in how he received them. If anyone of you guys saw how Henry received Ozil and the other players yesterday. And so right now, the only thing I see that will change is just Emery leaving. And even if we can have like Freddie take as the caretaker manager for the rest of the season, I would totally welcome that. That is the only change we can get.
What do you think?
I
I know that's probably the biggest thing. That's good. If there is change, that is what's going to happen. I don't see the board making a change in terms of an actual manager. I see Freddie being the one to take over. But this is someone that's got no managerial experience at the top level. He's managed with the youth side before. What is it about Freddie that you think would be so different to what we've already got with Emery?
I think Freddie understands Arsenal and our DNA and who we are and like how we should play. He has that. There's a transition between him. He played under Wenger, so he knows the club in and out. And there's a reason why the board, because it actually came out clear that it's the board that decided to have him come into the first team. It's because they must have seen something, and like I'm pretty sure with Freddie taking over, there's no single fan who would be against that for the rest of the season, and then that will kind of give him the ease of like to prove anything. He's over the line, because right now we are not gonna get over the line, and getting top 4 will be a miracle. And it's clear, it's inevitable.
Leo?
So like if the board has to make that decision right now.
Yeah, no, they do. Lee, I want to press you with the same question, because it's very easy just to think that, and it's the same thing with like Ozil and people saying that all of our problems would have been solved if we started playing Ozil. All of our problems would be solved if we took out Xhaka and put Torreira into the deepest role in the midfield. Would all of our problems be solved if Emery was removed and Freddie took over? Because I struggle to get behind the idea that he's the saviour of all of our issues just by bringing Freddie in. But what do you think would be the key changes that we would start to see by Emery being removed and Ljungberg being promoted?
Well, what I would see from that is like the shackles being released from the players. If I'll be honest, look at Emery. Look at the team that he set up yesterday. You had Ceballos and Ozil in the middle. You had middle of the field. You also had Aubameyang and Lacazette up front. In the second half, none of them were involved in anything. We didn't get a shot. Did their goalkeeper make a save second half? No. Why? These are good players. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. You know what I mean? You're telling me these are not exciting players. I look at Torreira playing as a number 10 or whatever position he was playing. Do you know what? I'm going to say this now. Someone come on here and tell me, what position did he play yesterday? Because I've watched football a long time. I have not got a clue what he was doing yesterday. So for a start, I think a new manager would come in and probably play the players in the proper positions, get players playing properly in their right positions and go from there. I also think, that what I feel with this, where I think that we need to go. Look at Man United. When they got rid of Mourinho last season, they put in Solskjaer and he got straight away a momentum of 5 or 6 games. That's what Freddie Ljungberg would do. He'd get that in there, but we don't make the same mistake then and then appointing him. Then bring in the man that you want. Now, I've heard loads of rumours that Emery wasn't our first choice. He was 3rd or 4th. Whoever the board's first choice, which could be now different, lads, because it's a little bit of a different regime. So whoever they want, that's who they go and get. Whether it takes 2 months, six weeks, or a day, go and get him. If they can't get him quite yet, then bring in Freddie or somebody else to do that job as a takeover. It's more common sense that it'd be Freddie because he's in the role. But my problem with that being that Steve Bold was doing a fantastic job in the youth team, but wasn't given the opportunity. Why, so who knows with Freddie? There is that thing of not knowing, the unknown. But the unknown is better than what I'm knowing at this moment in time, which isn't good enough. And that's where I see it. I looked at that game yesterday and I'm thinking, right, second half, we're 1-0 up. We've got I'm not criticising Jose. I thought we had a very good game yesterday. I'm not criticising Danny Ceballos. I thought they played really well yesterday in the first half. But where were they in the second half after his team talk? Now, did they go defensively? Was it a part of that going into the side? You know what I mean? I look back onto Wednesday night. Look how we couldn't maintain and see out a game. You know, when it was crying out for someone to keep on the ball and keep us playing, you know. I looked at it yesterday. I don't know if anybody else noticed it or whatever, like the fear factor of Emery as well. There's 5 minutes to go. We're playing, how can I say it without being too disrespectful to Wolves? They're a team that's going to end up in the mid-table, top 6, you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to be Champions League. We're at home. 1-1, 5 minutes to go. We need to win this game, Tom. You know what I mean? We can't keep falling to drop points at home. Tierney's gone. He's got nothing left in the tank. We've got a £74 million player on the bench. Stick him on and play free at the back. You know what I mean? Why have we gone like for like in the last couple of minutes? The reason is because we're fearful that we're going to lose the game. You know? So you've got this manager that's more fearful of losing and dropping points than going for it. And then it's because we're fearful and that we're losing it anyway. And I'm still going to go on to David's point because I think it's a great point. I think you can get Mickey Mouse in there. If the players want to play for you, they'll play for you. These players are not playing for him. Look at Aubameyang was captain yesterday. Did he get a sweat on yesterday? I know he scored and a great finish in that, but what? I didn't see him leading by example yesterday and running around and doing too much. You know what I mean? It just looks like, well, you know, they can't be bothered. And you have to ask yourself the question, what is Mourinho doing there a week ago? You know? And this is something that I'll argue and go on that. Arsene Wenger has got every bit of right to walk into that place at any time that he wants to for what he's done for the football club. But you know, out of respect for the new coach and whatever that, he's never gone back because he don't want to put no pressure on whoever it is. Mourinho's in there right at the front the other day. You know, what are the ball doing? Are they putting more pressure on him by doing that? You know, the rumours of Mourinho now are starting to circulate. You know, all these things, Tom, are not helping the manager in the right way. So is he making decisions because he feels he's more and more under pressure? And so I just think that, you know, that bringing in Freddie would just give us freshness. It would freshen up things. It would give everybody a lift. Now, I don't think it's a long-term thing, but my God, Tom, do we need a lift at the moment? The football's so poor, you know, and I look at it and go, like, I'm sitting there yesterday, I'm you know, you know, when I sold your ticket for the Tottenham game, you went, how much? It's that you know what I mean? Like, the Arsenal fans are paying a lot of money, and then the exciting players are not exciting because you're bored. And then when it comes to defending, we can't even do that. There's nothing right about the whole scenario at the moment. So I'm for getting Freddie in there to give it, and I think that what he'll do is he'll give it a lift. Look what Brendan Rodgers done at Leicester. Same players, you know what I mean? Like, the manager was leaving out Vardy. He was virtually, you know, spent a little bit of money, but you know, not great deals of money. But what he's done is he's come in there with Vardy, put his arm around him and tell him, you know, you're the best striker, you're this and this. Look what he's getting out of him. You know what I mean? People were saying he was on the way down, he was downhill. But no, a bit of love and tenderness and a bit of whatever. And look at him. And we need that. We've got Aubameyang and Lacazette. It's not, you know, these players are top players and they're not performing. They're not. I know they're scoring goals, but can you actually say that when was the last time you felt to yourself, wow, Aubameyang was right at it today, taking players on, holding the ball up, beating players, shooting from whatever? I don't see it. He has one chance and he takes it brilliantly. He does, and then he fades out of the game, Tom. So I'm all for seeing Freddie come in. I think he will change it up a lot better and give us a little bit of freshness. That's what I think.
It's interesting the point you bring up again about Aubameyang, because I just think that a lot of people would turn around and say, and it's argued to say that I'm in that group, that he's not getting the right service, that he's not getting enough chances. And when you look at the amount of shots that we had compared to Wolves in that game,
exactly,
I think it was 10 to 25. And then you look at how Liverpool played against an Aston Villa side that played them very well and nearly got a win against them if it wasn't for right at the end. You've got a Man City side that were very, very had to really battle to get those points as well in their game against the Southampton team that only a couple of weeks ago lost 9-0 to the team that we're going up against next week. And yet in our game, even though the other team was honest, like those other teams were, those other teams had more chances, created more, had more shots, had more opportunities to score. And we just simply didn't do the same. Now, John, keeping with the theme of Aubameyang and bringing Lacazette into it, the other piece of news that is coming out at the moment is that because of how things are going, because it's unlikely that we're going to achieve Champions League qualification this season, those two are reluctant to sign a new deal. Now, we were meant to have moved on from that. We were meant to have moved on from the time when Nasri and Fabregas and Van Persie were leaving to go on to better things. We're meant to have progressed. But now we're seeing our top players again going through this phase of a contractual dispute, which could lead to then us losing some of our top players. Now, Aubameyang's not getting any younger. I get that he's the other side of 30, but Lacazette is now in the prime of his career. And if we were to lose someone who's not only someone that we want to keep, but if we were to lose him for nothing when he's worth a hell of a lot of money, would be disastrous for the club. So my question to you is, how can the board not weigh that in sort of stead when you're thinking about making a change? Because if they don't make a change soon, Champions League will be out of sight and these players will want to leave.
Yeah, and I wouldn't blame them, to be honest. We're Aubameyang, Lacazette, they're being wasted here. I mean, it's sad and it's annoying, and I hope this isn't a situation where we get to look back and just revel at the fact that we had a world-class striker playing from us, and then that same kind of argument we had with RVP, like what could have been had we actually strengthened the team, paid him whatever, and done what we need to do and strengthen the squad in other areas. That it just like. We always seem to be in the situation of wrong place, wrong time, or we have the right players at the wrong time, or the right players in the wrong manager or managerial style. And it's really frustrating, especially when, you're looking at it from a fan's point of view, which is clearly what we're all doing here. So I wouldn't blame him if he wanted to leave. I think he was told that we're going to have Champions League football, and I think that his talent is being wasted in a competition like Europa League, languishing in mid-table. The guy is playing his ass off for us right now. And, I get that, there's certain games where he'll go missing. And I think that's as much of a part of how the system is being set up. And when you look at how the system is being set up, the fact that he's been doing as well as he has, Aubameyang, is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing that he's been as clinical and as effective as he is, especially considering how we've played. So I wouldn't blame them. And I think that the board's scared. I think they are, and I think they should be. I think they're scared not to make Champions League because I'm going to tell you, we're sitting here talking about it as a hypothetical. If we don't make Champions League next season, it is, and I'm not stressing this too much, it would be a catastrophe for us. Not only are we missing out on the money, that it's going to deal serious damage to us reputationally among players, among the league, players who actually need to. And if you don't think that a player sits down with their agent and considers that when they're making a decision when to do with their future, with their family, with their kids, and where they're going to live for the next, potential rest of their career, you're out of your mind. That's absolutely something that goes through their head. It's absolutely something that gets negotiated. It's part of the contract negotiations. It determines the price of the player. It determines the salary of the player. All of that is relevant. And you got to think it's not just, we want to play Champions League football. The board has to be looking at it from a financial point of view, even if it's only dollars and cents for them. It's something that's extremely concerning, let alone not making the Champions League. Also, the fact that we're going to, like you said, losing an asset, and let's call him that because that's the way that a business is going to look at him. He's an asset. He's right now sitting on the bench. He's depreciating, and soon we're going to lose him for free without making any money off him potentially. And I don't like looking at players like that. They're human beings, and they're people I enjoy watching in Arsenal colors and doing amazing things in this game that I love so much. So it's really stressful when you see a player that can offer something so much, and he's just not being utilized properly. And it's annoying because we've seen it before. If this was the first time, fine. But we've seen these amazing players over the years that have just been in a situation where they have not been in a system that suits them best. I think Ozil for a long period of his Arsenal career is a perfect example of that. And, people can come on one side or the other side of the fence about Ozil, but I find it hard to imagine personally that if we had played to his strengths and let's say what you want about Giroud, but had a little bit more of a clinical striker, not going 15 games in a season without scoring a goal, he wouldn't have done better. And I don't want to make it an Ozil conversation, but it does paint this picture as to how these star players that play for us just don't seem to be able to come in a time where they can actually affect us in the most positive possible way. And that's partially because we just never seem to have our what together when it comes to a system. And it's concerning, and I think that it's something that a lot of fans are struggling with right now. And back to my original point, if we don't make Champions League next season, I wouldn't blame Lacazette or Aubameyang for wanting to leave. And the fact that they haven't signed this deal yet is very telling, in my opinion, as to where they think it is behind the scenes and where they see this team going in the future under Emery.
Yeah, and if it does come to the point at the end of the season where we haven't qualified and there's big rumours about those two leaving, I don't think anyone would be too surprised about that whatsoever either.
Nope.
And that is one of the most concerning things about the club right now. Dave, first question. Sailor V says, "Is your phone okay?" Because I think we let it go partway through that. So I'm hoping that's fine. But moving sort of the conversation forward and looking ahead, because even though we are drowning in our own misery right now, it's important that we try and look forward to future miseries. And the next misery that seems to be on the horizon is the team that is getting a lot of praise, is winning by big goal margins, and that's Leicester. I mean, I know we have a game against Victoria midweek, but it's sort of a formality, these games, and the Premier League is the main focus. So what are your thoughts on the prospect of going to the King Power Stadium and facing Leicester right now, and what are your expectations of
it? This is going to be controversial. I think we're going to win.
Wow.
This is the thing about Arsenal that I've learned throughout all these years. The games you expect Arsenal to win, they'll piss you off. We'll be thrashed. And then the games you don't expect us to win, we produce the result. But I kind of feel like right now, you see the VAR situation where there's a goal, but then you have to wait because like something might happen. It might be called offside or anything. That is how Arsenal fans are right now. We are 2-0 ahead, but we're still like, no, we're not going to celebrate. That is how we are right now. And so, like, when you talk about future, I'm still like waiting for VAR, which is like what's gonna happen in terms of Emery leaving, if he's gonna stay, because if he stays, it's just nothing. We should not expect anything. Right now, I was even thinking of like getting off on a Wednesday to watch the Arsenal game, but I'm just like, I don't have that feeling of I want to watch the games anymore. There's a Kenyan Arsenal WhatsApp group. I just left the group. I said, I'm done with this, guys. So like that is what, like, when you leave in groups, you don't talk about Arsenal anymore. It's just, there's nothing to talk about. There's nothing that's going to happen unless the board changes this manager. Or I don't see anything happening.
I found drinking helps.
Yeah, but we're gonna win in Leicester.
No, drinking definitely helps, John. It does, 100%.
It really
does. Lee, you travel home and away, week in, week out, to these games, and I'm assuming you're going to be making the trip up to Leicester for the game. Is it a case where now, because there's so many empty seats in that stadium for the home game, which is quite an important one and quite a big one against a team that are very decent, like a game which you would usually expect to see the Emirates fairly full for, is it getting to the stage now where you as a fan travelling away from home are getting detracted? I mean, David said that he's leaving WhatsApp groups. The fans are feeling very detracted and down. At what point would you turn around and say that this is it for me? For the moment, I'm going to have to put my season ticket to one side because I can't do this anymore.
Do you know what? That's a tough question. I think that listen, I love David's. His confidence there that we're gonna go up to Leicester, which is great. I've got no confidence in going to Leicester. I've seen us capitulate too many times, and I just don't think we're defensively strong enough to get a result there. But you go up there because you're going with your mates and whatever, and you're looking to do it. But I'll tell you this now: after that game against Leicester, if we get beaten in that game, and the ball don't react to something in the international break, then I can see myself thinking to myself, well, I'd say I can't not stop going. That's a difficult thing to do. But picking and choosing, say, you know what, like I'm not going to travel there. Been there before, so maybe not go there. Do this, do that. So that could be something that's going on, because I honestly sat there on Saturday afternoon, even though we was winning that game, Tom, I thought, this is rubbish. I didn't enjoy. I didn't enjoy myself. I wasn't enjoying the game. I wasn't enjoying it. It just wasn't good. The atmosphere was. I didn't think the atmosphere was great, to be honest. The reaction of what's gone on over the last week. It was a week of hell, really, for an Arsenal fan. You know what I mean? All what happened against Crystal Palace, the Xhaka incident, the lack of leadership about what's going on about that. Because is he captain? Is he not? Is he going to come back? We still don't know. That was piss poor, if you want my honest opinion. It was, sorry to swear, but it was disgusting the way things went there. So then we go into the game against Liverpool. Do you know what? That could not have got any. I don't think that game could have been any worse if you was to pick how it could end up being as hurtful as it can be to an Arsenal fan. That was it. You know what I mean? To throw away that lead so many times and lose on penalties, and then come down to Saturday when a lot of people, the heart and soul has just been knocked out of us over the last week, and then put a performance in like that. So, don't forget we've got the European game on Wednesday night before this. Where you're asking people, like guys getting up early from abroad, you're asking the fans over here to have time off work to go and watch the game, and then you're going to go on to Saturday. And if things don't go well and the ball don't do nothing, I really do think the game against Southampton, there will be a lot of empty seats there. Very, very, it's not one of the greatest Premier League games as well, is it really? But what have you got to look forward to, and I don't mean that to be disrespectful because I go all the time and everything like that. It's just the way that it is at the moment, and listen, there's always that optimism that you might get a result against Leicester. You might get your result. I went to Liverpool this season, probably knowing that we was going to lose, but there's always that something going to happen. But even VAR don't help us out. It don't help us out. It helps every other fucker out, but it don't help us out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we can't even rely on that to help us out. So everything at the minute just seems to be going against us, and it's just hard work, like, you know what I mean? So I'm it's a tough question to ask somebody to not go to the Arsenal, but it is getting to that stage now. I think that, the board and the club at the minute are letting the fans down, in my opinion. And if they don't do something soon, then, they are really letting us down. Tough
John,
question, Tom. Thanks for that one.
Yeah, no problem. That's what I'm here for. John, in terms of, if I said to you at the start of the season, we've spent £72 million on Pepe. We've brought in another centre-back in David Luiz. We've already previously invested in Socrates and Torreira. We've seen a strong amount of youth coming through. If I said to you at this point in the season, so many games in, 11, 12 games into the Premier League season, or whatever it is, that we'd be 6 points behind the top four, and one of those teams is Leicester that we're playing on Saturday. One, how surprised would you be? And two, how much more surprised would you be that the manager is still here?
Well, first I would ask, is it 2016?
Yeah.
And if it weren't, the answer to that is no, then I would say, yeah, what's happening right now? I think when you look at the table, though, I think it's a little misleading, right? So we can look at the actual point totals that we've had this season and how far are we off, how many games we have left, and you can make a case that, there's plenty of time to come back and finish in the top four. And what I mean is, yes, mathematically, we're not in the worst possible position, especially when you look at some of our rivals. The problem isn't where we are on the table. The problem is how we've been playing. The problem is what we've been told regarding what this manager's objective was, what we were going to see, and what we've actually seen on the pitch. And we came from and you have to look at the context. It's important. We came from a manager who was here for a long time. He was very beloved. He had a lot of success here. And then you can see towards the end of his career, unfortunately, it started declining. He wasn't able to pull it together. We saw a lot of the same old things, same old problems. And we had this idea that we would come in and that we would rebuild things, and we would get this new manager in, and we would start instilling a new kind of idea, this press and this hard, high energy work with Emery that we were told what we were going to see. And we saw that in the first season for a little bit. We saw the capitulation at the end of the season, and now here we are. We don't even have that press anymore. We don't have that energy or playing for the manager that we saw, with and even the energy he had at the sidelines, gesticulating and raising his hands and screaming, and we don't have that. We have that, but we don't see the players, as you mentioned, playing for the manager anymore. So, at the end of it, if you look at the table, it says one thing, but then when you realize, did we meet the goals that we were promised? Are we even moving towards those goals? That we were going to see some kind of a progression. And everyone said, oh yeah, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I was one of those people, but we're not even we are getting worse, but at one point, does it get better? What is this? What is the purpose of this? If not just to get us in Champions League? And if we're not doing that, then what's the point? Why are we doing this? The whole point for us is to move this club into a positive direction. As fans, that's what we want to see, rather, not as us. All we have to do is support the team in whatever way that we think is the most reasonable. But what is the manager doing? What is the back room doing? What is their purpose here? What do they have to do? And what did they tell us they were going to do? We need to keep that in mind when we're considering not only where we are on the table, but how we're playing as a football team, what our values mean anymore. If it weren't for these youth players this season, I don't even know if I'd be watching it right now. And I've never said that. I've been an Arsenal fan for a long time, and that's one of the only things that's keeping me going right now. And just this notion that I've done it. It's like a routine. But I see it. I'm not even upset anymore, really. And that's kind of where I was that's when I knew that Wenger wasn't going to work out. When it wasn't like anger anymore, it wasn't disdain or anything. It was just apathy. And that's way worse than anger, apathy, when you just don't care anymore. And I'm afraid that that's where this is going to go. And I don't want to depress everyone here, but it's kind of a place where
great job.
I'm sorry. You asked the question. That's a hard one for me too. So it's hard to get into that position right now where I see this club going anywhere in a positive direction. And that could change in a month. That's the way football is. All of a sudden, it could be totally different. But, if history tells us anything, and the trajectory of how this team has played and how Emery has managed this team and what he's done in terms of tactics and his game plan going into matches, I just don't have any faith in that. So I don't even know if that answered your question, but, that's that.
Fair enough, mate. No, I think you've done well to answer it as best you can. We're going to round off the show with some quick fire questions. I know some people in the chat have been saying that we haven't really got a chance to answer them. Sometimes it is quite hard with the flow of the show to go through questions that are to do with something different. That's why, obviously, the raw reaction shows and tactical breakdowns are much more heavily chat-based. But I'm going to throw to you guys to ask some quick-fire questions. So, Lee and John, if you could keep these answers as quick as possible, then we can get through some more questions from the guys. So, Lee, I'll start with you. Question from Piyush. He says, pick one of the two options. Keep Emery, get top four with no identity, but he gets another season. Or B, sack Emery now. Freddie takes over as manager and we play it with a style and identity, but we miss out on top four. What would you go for?
Well, you can only have one of them.
You can only have one.
Listen. the more successful Arsenal are, the better. You know what I mean? So like, I'd have to go for keep Emery, get top 4. You know, simple as that. You know, we need to be in the top 4. Simple as that. You know, for long term, short term. So you know, any way we can. It ain't going to happen anyway with Emery in charge. But there you go.
John, same question. What are you going for?
I think if you asked me after the game, I would have said B. Now that I've had some time to think about it, though, we have to finish top 4. I think that's the most important thing, getting to the Champions League. That's why he was brought here. That he gets another season part makes it difficult, though. That's what really throws this question. I'm going to go with A because I want to be in the Champions League again.
Good stuff.
That's a good one. A, though.
David, I just rejoined us very quick, but the question's on the screen. 2 choices. A, keep Emery, get top 4, but he gets another season. Or B, sack Emery now. Freddie takes over. We play with style and identity, but we miss out on top 4. What do you go for?
That's unfair, man.
It's got to be quick fire. Just be brave and pick one.
Who is this guy? Oh wow!
It's the Sphinx.
I'm done with Emery, man. I'm done. I'm gonna go with B.
He's going with B. He's going with B. That's fair enough. You're entitled to that, mate. You're entitled. Right. Let's flash through some of these quick. Matthew De Souza Lee says, "Why doesn't Emery play 3 at the back? It will be the best for Louise as well."
I ain't got a clue. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. But you know, I think that he's lost the plot. So you know, yeah, I don't understand why. Certainly, when we're not performing that well, why not? I don't understand it. But I'd go with a back 3. But
fair enough.
Can't answer.
John Kamal says, "Would you take Jose Mourinho as manager?"
Come on, what is that? I mean. No. No.
Well, Dan says Lee Judges should be manager, so there you go.
Yes. I would take Lee Judges as manager over Jose Mourinho. Look, Jose is just, man, he's the worst. He's the worst. And I think that right now it's just one of those situations where you're like a starving person sees like a starving person sees like a half-eaten burger on the side of the road, and that's going to look like a you know, I don't know, man.
I've never heard him described like that before.
No, but it's true. It's like right now we're starving and anything looks good. But if we really think about what Jose was like and what he does and his whole deal, no.
Fair enough. David, question from Janice. He says, "Do you think Kroenke will get involved if we lose to Leicester?"
No.
Simple.
I don't think they will. Yeah, they're not going to do anything. I mean, I think Arsenal has this mold of like they do proper things. It's not like every. I mean, you know when what's his name? The guy that says it's time to go.
Claude.
Yeah, I don't think Claude is like the opposite of the Kroenkes. If Claude was in charge, he would. I actually wish he was.
I'm trying to look for any more questions before we wrap up, but I think that might just be about it. Daniel Falk, Dick Allen says Daniel Falk of Norwich should be the next Arsenal manager. That's a very interesting one. Last one, Lee GG says, can I ask a question? Don't you boys think the board are to blame for this?
Yeah, of course they are. I think the board have got to be blamed as much as the manager. You can't blame the board though for the performances on the park. They're not playing well, you know, and team tactics. That's down a different avenue. But you know, it starts from the top and it works its way down. You've got to have strong management at the top, people that care at the top as well, and. But the current way we're playing and all that, no, you can't blame the board. No.
Fair enough, mate. We're going to stick with you, Lee, for your prediction for the Victoria and Leicester game. I need 2 scorelines from you, please.
I think they're not a very good side, so I'm going to go 2-2 on Wednesday.
I love that. They're not a very good side, so we'll draw.
Not a good side.
That's how I feel at the moment, like, you know, and I'm afraid that Leicester. I think we're in for a savage time. So Leicester 3, Arsenal 0.
John.
2-1 Arsenal for Victoria, and then 2-0 Leicester.
Oh, he's gone for it as well. And the
I don't think
shining ray.
I don't think just one thing. I don't think on this spot I've ever predicted an Arsenal loss. I think we're losing that game.
David, sorry, the shining ray of positivity. I'm hoping from what you said a little bit earlier on. What is your prediction for both games?
I'm gonna go like Lee about the Wednesday game 2-2, but Leicester game Arsenal are gonna win 3-2.
Oh, the positivity is there. In the chat box, we got people saying, Declan says 6-1 win to Leicester. Dan Sumption says 3-1 win to Leicester. David Troyer says 4-1 win to Leicester. Chelsea SW6. Oh, of course he's in
man,
it.
Come on.
Leicester 9, Arsenal. Neil is a good friend.
What, they won today, so now they get to talk? Come on, guys.
AFC Charlie says 0-0. Dave says if we get beat 1-0 or 2-1, then no. But if we got thrashed 3 or 4, then yes, he thinks that Emery will go. DS Electronics says 3-1. I'm hoping that means to us. Kevin Lucas says 3-0 to Rodgers. Emmanuel says 2-1 Arsenal. South London's Finest B says 4-2 Leicester. DT's Stolen Hat says 3-2 win to Leicester. And Chig, our good friend Chig, says 4-2 Leicester win. So it's a ray of positivity in here this evening. You know me, ever the optimist. I'm never the optimist every single week. Unlike John, I will not break the trend and go for a loss. I will be positive and go for a draw. So I'm going to go for 2-2 against Leicester. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win against Victoria to wrap things up. I really hope you've enjoyed it. We've had over 1,000 people watching tonight, which is fantastic. Really, really appreciate you tuning in this evening. Lee, pleasure as always, pal.
No worries. I really enjoyed it. Like, sorry, I ain't been as positive as normal, but you know, you can only go on results.
I mean, no, it's all you can do, mate. It's all you can do. You can check Lee out at Lee Mark Judges on Twitter. Yes, his middle name is Mark. John, thank you for coming on, pal.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. You know, it wasn't easy, but it definitely is one of those cathartic experiences. You feel like a weight off your chest after you get to. It's like therapy, man. It really is. So, you know. Thanks for having me on.
I mean, there's nothing more you can say about it than it is being therapy, because that is exactly what it is. And Dave, I mean, fantastic debut from you, mate. Really, really
well
good.
done, David. Well done.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
You can check out Dave onto at Dave the Student 11. He does some really, really funny stuff over there on the other side of the pond. So thank you, David. Much appreciated, pal.
I cannot hear anything, but
he can't hear us. He can't hear us. That's fair enough, mate. Thank you for coming on. I've just been complimenting you, and you can't even hear us. But thank you ever so much for coming, Dave. You can go check out his stuff on Twitter and on YouTube as well. Links will be in the description. But thank you ever so much to our live chat as well. Really, really fantastic stuff as always from you guys in there. There will be some shows over the weekend. And through the week, but I've had my 2 weeks off from work now, and I'm going back tomorrow. So I know I'll get no sympathy from anyone because I get so much time off. But yeah, back to work next week. But there will be shows. I'm planning on doing a series of tactical breakdown shows on possible managerial replacements for Emery. It seems timely. It probably should happen. So expect some Q&As with some journalistic experts around those different managers. I've got some lined up for the Marco Rose of Borussia Dortmund and Jesse March of Red Bull Salzburg. So that should be interesting. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to tune in for that. I will see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.